Today is the disappearance day of Srivas Pandit. So we'll be singing the prayers to the departed Vaishnavas. And as we've also spoken about, these appearance days and disappearance days are very, very important to honor. Thank you. Because on these days, we have a great opportunity to meditate on these personalities and to be able to imbibe their qualities and the lessons. And I believe it is also the day that Bear Krishna Goswami Gurudev, you took sannyas on Srivas disappearance day. Yeah, so today is also the anniversary day when he took sannyas initiation in 1978 in Lima, Peru, from His Holiness Hridayananda Das Goswami. And as we know, Srivas Pandit we'll be speaking about was very active and very important in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes of Sankirtan. And so it's very auspicious that Maharaj took sannyas on that day and has dedicated himself to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we wanted to also thank him for setting such a wonderful example of the sannyas ashram and of the Sankirtan movement. And we beg to Srivas Pandit on this auspicious day to continue to bless him in his devotional service. He can tell the funny stories. So we're going to sing from page 78 in the songbook. Saparshita Gora Viraha Vilapa, lamentation due to separation from the Lord and his associates, by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Yea Nilo Premadana Karuna Pracho Yea Nilo Hey no Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur. Kamora Swarurupa Kasa Nanta Kadasa Ragu Nata Patita Pama Ka Moraba Dayuga Ka Kavira Eka Kale Kota Gela Gora Natara Pasane Kutiba Mata Anale Pasibo Godanga Tunira Niti Kota Gele Babo Jai Saba Sangera Sange Ye Koilo Ila Say Sanga Napaye Kande Naro Damota Yanilo Premadana Karuna Pacho Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur, Jaya Vaishnava Thakur. Srivas Pandit Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Pavakacharya Stotra Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi Ki Jai. Namachar Sri Das Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopanath Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavana Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannatha Swami Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrindi Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories, Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srivas Pandit Ki Jai. So before giving class, I was reflecting when I first came in contact with hearing from Srila Prabhupada. In those days, it was before they were even saying Jaya. They were saying Bhaja Shri Krishna, Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Was it Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda? And then it was changed to Jaya. But I remember at the time, I had no idea who these personalities were. But I was hearing about them, and Srila Prabhupada had said, you chant these before chanting Hare Krishna, and that it relieves you from any offenses. So I had no idea who are these personalities and what is this all about. But I had the faith in Srila Prabhupada's words, and over time, by singing these names and reading Srila Prabhupada's purports in his books, all these different personalities became very, very important to me in my life and had great meaning. And when I had the opportunity to visit Mayapur Dham and go to the Srivas Sangam, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had his pastimes in the home of Srivas Pandit, then they took on even more meaning. So I feel very honored today to have that opportunity to speak about Srivas Pandit. I wanted to start first. I always like to start when I'm going to give a class before I start speaking or some of the different pastimes, is to also read from Srila Prabhupada's books, because that is where we get the authority to be able to speak. So I'd like to offer my respects unto His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, unto Bear Krishna Goswami, and all the senior devotees here, and ask for permission to speak. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Brinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Brinda. So I'm first going to read from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 7, verse 4. Panchatattva avitana Chaitanya rasange, Panchatattva lana karana sankirtarange. These 5 tattvas incarnate with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and thus the Lord executes his Sankirtan movement with great pleasure. So as we've spoken about previously, tattva means truth. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.32, there is a following statement regarding Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tvistakam Sangopangastra Prasadam Yagnai Sankirtana Praya Yajantihi Sumeda Saha. Quote, in the age of Kali, people who are endowed with sufficient intelligence will worship the Lord, who is accompanied by his associates by performance of the Sankirtan Yagna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by his plenary expansion, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, so we know that Nityananda Prabhu is non-different than his first expansion, Sri Balaram, in Krishna Leela. His incarnation of Sri Advaita Prabhu, who is non-different than Mahavishnu. His internal potency, Sri Gadadhar Pandit, who is non-different than Srimati Radharani. And his marginal potency, Srivas Prabhu, who stands for us, who is non-different than Narada Muni. He is in the midst of them as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always accompanied by these other tattvas. So the Lord doesn't come alone. He is surrounded by his associates. And we also learn from that experience that in this age, the method of self-realization is not previously to go all alone in the Himalayas and to meditate, but to gather in the association of the Lord and the devotees. Therefore, our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are complete when we say, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. As preachers of the Krishna consciousness movement, we first offer our obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting this Panchatattva mantra. Then we say, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. There are 10 offenses in chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but they are not considered in the chanting of the Panchatattva mantra, namely Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda. May Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also known as Mahavadantara, the most magnanimous incarnation, for he does not consider the offenses of fallen souls. Thus, to derive full benefit of the chanting of the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We must first take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, learn the Panchatattva Maha Mantra, and then chant the Hare Krishna mantra. That would be very effective. So this is Srila Prabhupada's very merciful instruction to the devotees. So I'm going to read a little bit more and a quote from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explaining about the position of the Panchatattva. Panchatattva eke vastu nahi kichu beda rasa asvi de tabu vivida viveda. Spiritually, there are no differences between these five tattvas, for on the transcendental platform, everything is absolute. Yet there are also varieties in the spiritual world, and in order to taste these spiritual varieties, one should distinguish between them. So this will be explained by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but I also wanted to speak on it, that these five tattvas are considered one and at the same time different. But they're taken together. It's because the Lord wants to enjoy different relationships and different tastes. So he appears in different ways and different expansions. In his Anubhashya commentary, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the Panchatattva as follows. The supreme energetic, the personality of Godhead, manifesting in order to enjoy 5 kinds of pastimes, appears as the members of the tattva, Panchatattva. So it's a Supreme Lord, but in order to relish 5 different tastes, he comes as 5 different personalities. Actually, this is ontologically, there is no difference between them because they are situated on the absolute platform, but they manifest different varieties as a challenge to the impersonalists to taste different kinds of spiritual humorous rasas. So the impersonalists, they want to think everything is one, and God has no form, no personality. But here, not only does the Lord have form, but he expands himself into different personalities to enjoy. Just like it's also explained in Krishna Lila, how Srimati Radharani, how she has her different friends, her sakis, but these expansions are actually her different moods of enjoying, for Krishna to enjoy relationships. So the Lord expands himself in different ways. Okay. In the Vedas, it is said, Parasha Shakti Vidaiva Surite, the varieties of energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are differently known. From this statement of the Vedas, one could understand that there are eternal varieties of humors or tastes in the spiritual world. Sri Gauranga, Sri Nityananda, Sri Advaita, Sri Gadara, and Sri Vas are all on the same platform, but in spiritually distinguishing between them, one should understand that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the form of a devotee, Bhakta Swarup. Nityananda appears in the form of a devotee's spiritual master. Advaita Prabhu is a form of a Bhakta devotee incarnation. Gadara Prabhu is the energy of a Bhakta, Srimati Radharani, and Srivas Thakur is a pure devotee, Narada Muni. Thus, there are spiritual distinctions between them. The Bhakta Rupa, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Bhakta Swarupa, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, and the Bhakta Avatar, Sri Advaita Prabhu, are described as the Supreme Personality of God in himself. They're known as Vishnu Tattva. His immediate manifestation and his plenary expansion, and they all belong to the Vishnu category. Although the spiritual and the marginal energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, they are predominated subjects, whereas Lord Vishnu is a predominated. As such, although they are on the same platform, they have appeared differently in order to facilitate tasting of transcendental mellows. So we've also spoken about how in spiritual life there's so many different relationships, so many different tastes, so many different mellows. It's not very boring. Actually, however, there is no possibility of one being different from the other, for the worshiper and the worshipable cannot be separate at any stage. On the absolute platform, one cannot be understood without the other. So this is why it's actually so important for us to chant the Panchatattva mantra, because it opens up the ability for us to chant Hare Krishna. And when we chant Hare Krishna, Chetudarpana Marjanam, the mirror in the heart of the mind becomes cleansed. Our heart becomes cleansed. Our mind becomes cleansed. Because at this point, we are affected by the different modes of material nature, and we can't see things clearly. We see the dualities of this material world. So we can't even understand how this is the absolute platform. But through the chanting of the holy name and through dedicating ourselves to engaging wholeheartedly in the mission of our spiritual master, then we can actually be given vision that this is not the ascending process that, like Ravana, we want to make a staircase to heaven, but we are allowing that transcendental knowledge to come through us through offering ourselves. So there's many, many explanations about this, but I wanted to go on and speak some about Srivas Pandit, who's such a wonderful, exciting personality. Read a little bit. Much of what's online from the Vaishnava history comes from this particular compilation. So, Srivas Pandit is extremely, extremely important in the role of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. He played a very integral part because just like, for instance, Lord Krishna seems to have appeared in Mathura, then he was transferred, as we know, to Nandagram. And we also know that he enacted his different pastimes in different places. So Lord Krishna's most intimate pastimes take place in the home of Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj in Vrindavan. So the same way, even it's explained that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he appeared in the home of Jagannath Mishra, but his most intimate pastimes take place in the house of Srivas Pandit. Now, Srivas Pandit, he's elder to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Both his mother and father, Jagannath Mishra, and Sachi were neighbors to Srivas Pandit and his wife Malini, and they were very good friends. It's also explained that Srivas Pandit was a very, very close friend with Advaitacharya and the other Vaishnavas. And they would meet, and this is before the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they would meet in the house of Srivas, and they were engaged. They would close all the doors and all the windows, and they would engage in all-night kirtans, singing and dancing and relishing the pastimes of the Lord. But Navadvip at that time had become a great intellectual center, and unfortunately it had become permeated by those that didn't have faith, by those that posed themselves as being Brahmins, but were actually attached to the impersonal, or were just attached to their position in society. And so Advaitacharya, although he is actually the Supreme Lord himself, he was praying, who can save the people of this age? Everything has become so corrupt. How will the people of this age ever be delivered? And so they were praying and praying for the Lord himself to come personally. And so they would have these kirtans. And it's explained that it was by the worship of Advaitacharya offering the Ganges into the Ganges and crying out for the Lord to appear that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was forced to come. But besides that, it's also explained that it was the loud kirtans of Srivas that called Lord Chaitanya to come. His loud kirtans, his Sankirtan. And it is also explained that there's a very, very, very important lesson for us in the pastimes of the relationship between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srivas. Because Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are very instructive to us. When the Lord comes as a devotee, he teaches us what it means to become a devotee, how to take shelter. And here we see that Srivas, we'll see in these pastimes, was so dedicated to serving Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was so dedicated, so one-pointed, that he even didn't want to disturb the Lord's kirtan when his own son passed away, because he knew that how fortunate is this soul to leave when the Lord is singing and dancing in my home. But we'll speak about this pastime afterwards. And we know that he had no fear when the Qazi came. So he showed his devotion in so many ways. And because of that, the Lord, he stole the Lord's heart. So the love between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srivas, the mutual love between the Lord and his devotee, is a very instructive for all of us. How the Lord appreciates the dedication and the devotion of his devotees. So this is a very, very beautiful example. So I'm going to read a little bit. Srivas Pandit's origins. Srivas Pandit hailed from Shalat. So Shalat, I don't know if I'm pronouncing right, was actually in East Bengal. And many, many of the great devotees came from Bangladesh. Nityananda himself came from there. Many, many great devotees came. Well, actually not Nityananda, but many, like Srila Narottam Das Thakur, many of the great devotees came from Bangladesh. But he later came to live in Navadvip, and it's explained he made an immense contribution to Gaura Leela. It's explained in the Prema Vilas that Srivas' father was a Vedic Brahmin of the name Sri Daladhir Pandit. Srivas was the second of 5 sons. The eldest son, Sri Nalini Pandit, had a daughter named Narayani, the mother of the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das. Narayani's husband, Vaikuntha Das Vipra, died while she was pregnant with Vrindavan Das. She left her husband's house in Kormahata and came to live with Srivas in Navadvip. So it's very interesting how everything is perfectly arranged by the Lord, because as we know now, Bangladesh is a Muslim country, and it would be very difficult to be worshiping the Lord and his appearance place and to have a big temple like they have in Mayapur. So everyone just happened to move to Navadvip, and there all these different pastimes took place. So, as I said, Srinivas Acharya, he was neighbors with Nimai Pandit. And Srinivas and his wife Malini were actually like second parents to Nimai. But they were feeling very, very frustrated, as was Gadadhar Pandit. And because Nimai, he was always engaged in this logical argument. He was so brilliant that nobody could defeat him. And he would he would just try to agitate all his friends with this argument and logic. And although they had called for the Supreme Lord to come, by the potency of Yoga Maya, the Lord's internal energy, they were in illusion, spiritual illusion, not understanding that this was their Lord. So Nimai would engage Gadadhar and Mukunda and other devotees in debate, defeating their arguments, and then showing how they could have defended. So then one day, Nimai was passing by the devotees, and he saw Srivas. So whenever he saw him, Srivas would look at him and say, "May you have devotion to Krishna." And Nimai, because Srivas was much older, he didn't debate with him. He always just offered him respectful obeisances. And Srivas was always blessing him, "May you have devotion to Krishna." So although he is the Supreme Lord, this is also showing us the example of how important it is to get the blessings of the great devotees. That without the blessings of the great devotees, it's very impossible for that bhakti lata to grow within the heart. It's within the heart, it's inherent within the heart, but it's the association of great devotees, their blessings, that waters it. One day, Srivas Pandit was out walking when he encountered Nimai on the street. He said, "People study in order to become devotees of Krishna. What is the use of all their studies if they don't become devotees? Don't waste your time. Start worshiping Krishna as soon as possible." So he was just speaking straightforward. Don't waste your time. Now, if one is studying and they become a great devotee of Krishna, then they can use that in Krishna's service. But he said, "Well, you're just wasting your time." So he spoke very strongly. Sometimes we're afraid to speak strongly, but actually we see speaking strongly with the mood of love and devotion can help wake one up. Mahaprabhu felt great joy on hearing such words from the mouth of his own devotee and answered, "You are a devotee. By your mercy, I will surely have devotion for Krishna someday." So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was playing the role that, I don't have devotion for Krishna. Although he was Krishna himself. And he was showing us, by your mercy, I'll become a devotee. Even though they could not help but be attracted to Nimai, the devotees were unable to recognize him as their own worshipful Lord due to the force of his Yogamaya Lila Shakti. This is a most astonishing and attractive pastime. So Nimai, he was having so much fun debating with his friends, aggravating everyone. And the devotees were having so much fun in his association. Nimai becomes a devotee. So we know that when Nimai Pandit went and he met his spiritual master and returned from Gaya, he became completely intoxicated in love of God. And it was so auspicious, but his mother was completely terrified, thinking that her son had gotten mad, that he had some kind of wind disease, that there was something wrong with him. And she was in so much anxiety what to do. Has a ghost entered Nimai? Does he have some kind of imbalance? Do I need to take him to the Ayurvedic physician? What's the problem here, And he was just mad, just singing and dancing and crying and not wanting to do his normal activities. So he was just completely in ecstasy. Then what happened was Srivas came by and heard her anxiety. And Mahaprabhu turned to Srivas after he came out of it, because they would think he was in an epileptic fit, but he was in ecstasy. So when he came out of it, he said to Srivas, "Everyone thinks that I've gone crazy. They say that my humors are disturbed. What do you think has happened to me, Srivas? Please tell me." And then Srivas just laughed. "If your humors have become disturbed, then I want some of that too. I see that powerful devotion, devotional feelings have entered your body. This means that Krishna has been merciful to you." So Srivas, he was able to see that these were the real ecstatic symptoms. We know that sometimes, there's a story we were reading about the snake charmer. That one time there was a snake charmer, and I think it was Haridas Thakur came, and the snake charmer was playing music, and Haridas Thakur, he went into ecstasy, and he was dancing completely in ecstasy, and the snake charmer was just putting him in the middle, and so then there was somebody who wanted attention, so he started imitating him, and then the snake charmer started beating him because he said, "I could see this is artificial. So with Nimai, this was real, and Srivas was able to see this is real ecstasy. So after that, then Nimai said, if you had said that I had gone mad, I would have drowned myself in the Ganges. This is from the Chaitanya Bhagavat 2.2, 113 through 7. So then after that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instituted a loud chanting of the holy names in his house and in the house of Srivas. So there were many atheistic neighbors, and they all began to complain that they were losing sleep at night, that it was too much noise. And they looked at different ways to counter the movement and even start false rumors so that the king would soon come to punish the devotees. The impressionable Srivas Pandit believed these stories and was filled with anxiety. He began to worship Nrsingadev for protection. So in the beginning, Srivas was in anxiety that they're going and they're telling the king all these things. And they were just envious. First of all, there were different devotees that were class of so-called Brahmins and ritualistic priests. And they didn't want this Sankirtan movement to rise. They were against it. And they were trying different ways to stop it. So they were going to go and complain to the Muslim king. So the Lord Chaitanya could understand that Srivas was afraid, and the Lord takes away the distress of all his devotees. So I'm going to read this. Understanding that Srivas was afraid, the Lord, who takes away the distress of his devotees, went to his house. He kicked open the door and said, "Who are you worshiping? Who are you meditating on? Behold, he whom you are worshiping is standing before you. I will save the righteous and destroy the wicked. You should worry no longer." And saying, he sat down in the heroic position, Varshana, and revealed the divine form of Nrsinga, holding conch, disc, club, and lotus. So this is the first time that the Lord revealed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed that Lord Nrsingadev, all these different incarnations are within me. I'm the original personality of Godhead. So he lifted the veil. So you can imagine how the devotees were just like in shock, you know. So Srivas, because he was feeling anxiety, the Lord came and revealed that form. When Srivas saw this extraordinary manifestation of the Lord, he was overcome with feelings of love and began to recite hymns of praise. Mahaprabhu was pleased with Srivas' recital and told him to call his wife and family members to see his divine form. He gave his prasad to Narayani and showed his mercy to her by making her utter the holy name. Just as the devotee is dear to the Lord is also dear to his devotee. So Narayani, who is the mother of Vrindavan Das Thakur, who compiles the Chaitanya Bhagavat, the early pastimes of the Lord, she was personally there as a young child. And one might think, oh, it was so unfortunate that it was so unfortunate that, you know, that her husband passed away and all these things happened, but now they were getting the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then there's another story that takes place, and that's when Nityananda's Vyasa Puja. So it was the parents of Vyasadeva, and they were supposed to be doing a Vyasa Puja. And Nityananda came there, and all the different devotees came, and Srivas was the one that was overseeing it. On the following day, Srivas Pandit took the role of the ceremonies acharya. After completing the puja, he placed a flower garland in Nityananda's hand and told him to offer it to Vyasadeva while chanting the appropriate mantras. Nityananda hesitated, looked around until Mahaprabhu told him to hurry up and complete the ceremony by offering the garland to Vyasadeva. The ever-independent Nityananda, however, put the garland around Mahaprabhu's neck instead, giving it to the deity. Mahaprabhu immediately gave Nityananda a vision of a sixth-armed form with Balaram's club and plow, along with the 4 symbols of Vishnu. So in this took place in Srivas Anga, in the house of Srivas. And again, the Lord showed his form, this time as with Satpuj with the different arms, showing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna, Lord Ram. At the end of the Vyasa Puj, Mahaprabhu ordered the devotees to sing the holy names. As they did so, he asked Srivas for the prasad, which he personally distributed to the devotees, as well as Srivas' servants. Everyone ate the offerings with great pleasure. When Mahaprabhu saw Srivas' devotion to Nityananda, he blessed him as follows. Even if the goddess of fortune should be forced to beg from town to town, there will never be any poverty in your home. Even the dogs and cats in your home will have enduring devotion to the Lord. I have turned Nityananda over to you, so take responsibility for him. So Srivas and Malini were like the mother and father of Nityananda, because Nityananda was such an avaduta, he needed to be kept in check. And here Srivas was given this benediction, because Srivas Thakur, he didn't want to work. One time Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited him. You have a whole family. You've got your brothers and relatives. How are you feeding everyone? He says, I clap my hands 3 times. If nothing appears, then I'll go drown myself. So the Lord gave the benediction. No one in your home will ever go hungry, because you are my great devotee. And it wasn't that he was lazy. It said he was fully absorbed in the Sankirtan movement. And he said the ideal example is a Grihasta, because he had his home as a place for Sankirtan Yagna. And he invited everyone to come and to sing and dance. And again, he showed his devotion, as I said, when his son left during this kirtan, and all the women were crying, of course. Srivas' only son has left his body, And then he told the ladies, no, he's left his body during the kirtan, and Mahaprabhu is in the home. Why are you crying? And I don't want to disturb the Lord's pastimes. I remember I heard this, I thought, this is so cruel. He doesn't have empathy. This is terrible. I was besides myself too. So then what happened is, then the Lord comes and he's so soft-hearted. He says, something happened here. I can feel what happened here today. And they said, oh, Shiva's only son passed away. And then he said, why didn't you tell me? Well, Srivas, he didn't want to disturb the kirtan. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he felt so much affection for him. So he went, he placed his hand on the head of the boy and said, why did you leave the home of Srivas? Why did you leave? And he said, Srivas, I've had so many fathers and so many mothers. You are the supreme controller. It is by your will only that I have come and gone, and you have willed that I leave. So now I have left. So then they understood, oh, actually how fortunate he is. He left hearing the holy name. He's gone to join. So there's so many wonderful pastimes with Srivas, and Srivas Angan is a very, very important place. And when you get to go to Mayapur Dham, you can go there and feel the potency of the Sankirtan movement. But even here and now, today, if we remember Srivas, we remember Srivas Angam, and we remember the holy name, we can enter into the wonderful Sankirtan movement. Like Drishta and Rudrani, although they go out, there's only a few people with them. They're always singing and dancing at Srivas Angam. So if you want to know more about that particular mood, you can join them also in singing and dancing. Thank you all so much for listening. There is so much to say. I always over-prepare, but I just wanted to first give the ontological understanding and hear from Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Golokananda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shivas Pandit ki jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam
Kandar Agung Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Vasyan Dipan Dikayanti Jiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham
Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda
Shaktis Amita Smarane Nakala Etadrishita Vakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadaram Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Baba Tad Bhakti Rahoita Ki Twai Arinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vashame Bhavam Buddha Kripayata Vapata Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrishim Vachintaya Nayanam Galata Shudaraya Varanam Gadgata Hridaya Kira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanamagrahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishivapadam Pranastumam Adarshanam Marmahatakarotuva Yatatatava Vindadolam Patomat Prananatastusa Eva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you've invested all your transcendental energies. They're not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of your kindness you've given you by these holy names, but I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all to others. And thus, in made of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Sadamaharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly by his embrace